A Sound of Thunder, a short story by Ray Bradbury, was published in 1952. In it, a hunter named Eccles pays $10,000 to travel with Time Safari, a time machine company that transports hunters back to the dinosaur era and allows them to hunt T-Rex. The company makes no guarantees about your safety or return, and there are strict guidelines and expectations for how the hunters should behave once they travel back in time. When they travel 60 million years back in time, they notice the path that the company has set. It floats 6 inches above the ground and is the only path that the hunters should take. During their stay in the past, they are not permitted to touch anything and must only shoot when instructed. Interrupting any of the natural processes in the past may have irreversible consequences for the future. When you step on a mouse, you leave an imprint that will last forever, like the Grand Canyon. They are very careful to leave the past exactly as it was supposed to unfold. The T-Rex they were supposed to kill would be crushed by a tree seconds later. It was going to die regardless. Eccles, on the other hand, is terrified and runs back to the time machine through the jungle to await the arrival of the others. But when the rest of the crew returns, they notice the mud on Eccles' boots. Against their better judgment, they allow him to return to the present day with the crew. When they exit the time machine, the crew checks in with the man behind the desk to see if everything is fine, and he confirms that it is. However, the man is acting differently than he did before they left. There's a strange odor in the air. It's faint, but it is there. The signage on the wall is different. The words were spelled differently. Eccles sits down and checks every inch of his body for anything he could have ruined, and he discovers a butterfly on his mud-caked boot, beautiful and dead. The death of a single butterfly has caused the future to change. He cries out in disbelief, begging to return to the past and undo what he's done. He sits down with his eyes closed and notices a crew member entering the room. Massive bombings, earthquakes, and other large-scale events. However, it has now been recognized that this is a very old-fashioned viewpoint held by people who are completely out of touch with modern thought. The smallest of things have the greatest impact on the world. A butterfly flapped its wings in the Amazon, and a storm swept across half of Europe. A quote from the novel Good Omens has been slightly paraphrased. It's talking about the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, or sensitive dependence on initial conditions, is the concept that a small change in any situation can have far-reaching consequences later on. Edward Lorenz came up with the idea in the 1950s. Lorenz, a meteorologist, was looking for a way to predict the weather. He was running experiments with different numbers to try to model a weather forecast. He conducted a previous experiment with an initial condition of 0.506127, or 6 significant digits. He thought it was a little overkill, so he reduced his initial condition to 0.506. 3 significant digits should be sufficient. So he left the room to get a cup of coffee and returned to something very different than what he had before. At first, everything seemed normal, and they appeared to follow the first experiment one-on-one. But after a while, they began to diverge and resembled completely different models. A 0.03% difference in values had enormous long-term consequences. It may appear insignificant. It is only a model, right? Lorenz had only just opened the door to a new way of thinking and seeing the world around us. Chaos theory is a branch of mathematics that focuses on exactly this type of thinking. But the name is somewhat misleading. The butterfly effect does not represent chaos, but rather the effects of changing minor conditions and then observing the outcomes. Think about this. It is easier to predict a planet's orbital period in another star system 10 million years from now than it is to predict our own weather on Earth just a month from now. Because in order to predict the weather over time, we would need to know the precise position and momentum of every air molecule on the planet, as well as how they interact with one another. Planetary orbits are simply easier to calculate because there are fewer variables. Any university physics student could probably compute it. In terms of weather, a butterfly flapping its wings causes a minuscule and almost unnoticeable change in atmospheric pressure. But these changes compound over time, until, as is well known, the butterfly's wings cause a tornado in Texas. This unavoidable accumulation of errors is known as deterministic chaos, or chaos that can be determined and measured. However, the butterfly cannot cause a tornado. It represents an unknown quantity. We can never reverse engineer an event to determine what tipped the system. There are simply too many factors that could have contributed to it. No decision you've ever made has been an isolated event. It's like a domino effect that accumulates over time. The world and society is analogous to a network, and when one component fails, it has an impact on the entire network. Chaos theory is not random, despite appearances. To demonstrate this, let's play the chaos game. Take a piece of paper and make 3 points like this, labeling them A, B, and C. Now choose a random point in the middle of those 3 points and place it right here. All you have to do now is mark the halfway point between your starting point and point A. Make a point halfway between here and point B. Repeat the process for point C, then continue the pattern by rotating between points A, B, and C. If you do this for long enough, something interesting will begin to happen. As more generations of these points are drawn, an image begins to form. This complex yet orderly figure emerges from seemingly random points drawn out of chaos and disorder. Chaos can be transformed into order by drawing a few points and adhering to specific rules. It's a fractal, with infinitely complex patterns that are self-similar at any scale. This demonstrates that, given enough time, random actions can have significant long-term consequences. The butterfly effect isn't how you'd expect science to work. Physics, math, and many other scientific fields are based on predictability, such as predicting planet orbits so that satellites and probes can be sent there, or predicting the likelihood of an asteroid colliding with Earth. The butterfly effect is the polar opposite. It is a model that highlights flaws in other models. It states that without a perfect understanding of the initial conditions, any prediction is essentially useless. Although the butterfly effect exposes flaws in other models, it also highlights the impact that everything, including us, has. Jonas Salk is credited with discovering the first vaccines for polio. If he hadn't discovered it at the time, the world's population would be very different today. Some people would not have been born, and entire family lines could have been severed due to the lack of a vaccine. Some of the largest companies today may not have existed if this specific event had not occurred at this specific time. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, a Russian nuclear-armed submarine was stationed off the island of Cuba. American ships detected the submarine and began to use depth charges to signal that it should surface. However, the crew on board mistook the depth charges for bombs. The captain of the ship believed that war had broken out between the United States and the Soviet Union and ordered that a nuclear torpedo be launched immediately. Everyone agreed, except one officer, Vasily Arkhipov. Without a unanimous vote, no action could be taken and World War III was avoided. This one man's decision is the reason the United States and Russia are no longer nuclear wastelands. The butterfly effect has far-reaching consequences. Do you truly have control over your life, including everything? No, but you and I have a significant impact on the world as well. The butterfly effect is not intended to provide leverage. It does not imply that every small action has a significant impact. If that were the case, you could manipulate it. Consider it a game similar to Jenga. If you remove a specific block, everything may be fine. However, removing one special block causes everything else to fall apart. The truth is that you have no idea what thing or block will alter your future, so everyone has a say in it. For example, watching this video will take approximately 10 minutes of your day, whether for a good reason or not. Could watching a movie or listening to a song, getting a video idea from it, researching it, writing it, editing it, and uploading it to your YouTube feed at a specific time keep something bad from happening to you? Perhaps watching this video prevented you from going to the store 10 minutes early, whereas if you had left 10 minutes ago, a car running a red light would have hit you in an intersection and killed you. It's a terrifying thought, but it is a possibility. Someone recently messaged me stating that they had seen someone watching one of my videos in the classroom next to them. They started talking, became friends, and are now dating. If YouTube hadn't existed as a platform, and I hadn't had that specific video idea, that would never have happened, and those two people might never have met. But it goes far beyond that. Everything has led you and me to this exact moment. Absolutely everything. Supernovas exist because the universe exists, the universe is expanding, and the universe's temperature is just right to allow stellar nurseries to form stars. Without supernovae, there would be no iron. We could not exist without iron. Every day, I hope, you breathe and exhale carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is converted into oxygen through photosynthesis by plants. Oxygen that people hundreds of years from now may breathe. Every action you take, no matter how small, will have an impact on the future in some way. People from hundreds of years ago influenced the world we know today. The actions you take today will have long-term consequences. The little things you make today can become the big things that the next generation builds on. In a way, you can live indefinitely. So the next time something significant happens in your life, remember that it did not happen by accident. Everything you do today will have a significant impact on your future, just like the butterfly effect. Skills learned today may come in handy in unexpected ways 10 years from now. Just like the fractals we discussed, a small random action can have serious consequences in the future. Let Brilliant start the domino effect. Brilliant actually helped me better understand fractals and how the math behind them generates infinite works of art. They have an entire section dedicated to the Mandelbrot set, which is what you're looking at right now. They offer courses not only in fractals, but also in logic, group theory, probability, and many other topics. You can take as many of these courses as you want with Brilliant's premium membership. If you're one of the first 200 people to sign up using the link in the description, you'll save 20% on your premium subscription. So go and learn a new skill. You'd be surprised where it could take you.